And the only way we know how to do our adventures is the Walsh way. So thank you so much for the presentation. My name is Julia Walsh. This is Michael Walsh, my husband, and I would also like to acknowledge my family in the room. We've got Sheila Walsh, we've got Pat Fitzsimmons, Ed Ming, Uncle Vince, Ann Eileen, Linda, and Joe. Thank you. I would also like to acknowledge our first cousins, the Westmeyers, who drove all the way from Cleveland today to join us. Thank you. So as you remember back to the 90s and the famous movie by Eddie Murphy where his character went from Africa to America in the Coming to America movie. Alright, so we decided to do exactly that, but the opposite. So we went from America to Africa, and we did it the Walsh way, just like I said, and that's the only way we know how to do it. Of course, this is not the picture that we took in our travels, so before I dive any deeper, let me put a disclaimer out there and a huge props and credits to my family who took most of the pictures in this presentation. It really is not us to credit for this, it's to them that we owe this thanks. This is certainly not one of the pictures that they took, and I'll point out the pictures that we didn't take so that we can give credit to the AI that did. So this is just a stylized version of the world, and I wanted to show it to you just in case if South Africa in the name is not self-explanatory where it is. So it's right there, just like you guessed it. It's in the south tip of African continent. And it is a country that is marvelous, gorgeous. We're happy to share it with you, and we want you to go and visit it after this. So let me get you a little bit of a close-up of South African country. It is, like I said, a magnificent country, and it's got lots of history and nature. So South Africa has not one, but 2 kingdoms in its territory. It is very unique, and no other country in the world has those monarchies on its territory. During our travels this past year, when we traveled to South Africa, we had a chance and privilege to visit one of them, called Eswatini. So we'll walk you through our entire journey, including South Africa and Eswatini. A little bit of a trivia, because in case if you want to go to some trivia pub nights or whatever and the question comes up, you'll remember this and you'll say, oh, I know. So the population of South Africa is 60 million people. It is a huge country. It has not 1, not 2, but 3 capitals, which is very unique. Pretoria, Cape Town, and Bloemfontein. I think I did it justice. There's going to be a lot of terms and proper names we will probably butcher today. I apologize. We tried to rehearse them, but I'm sure we will fail at some point. So South Africa speaks 11 languages. The currency is the rand. The major mountains are Drakensberg, and the major rivers are Limpopo and Orange. So, did I tell you about Eswatini? Well, let me point out one more time where it is on the map. Because as you'll notice, it is sitting almost on the border of South Africa and its neighbor, Mozambique. So, I'll get you a little bit more of a close-up of Eswatini so that you can get a mental image of it. So Eswatini has 2 capitals actually. We did visit one, Mbabane. You have to have the sound Mbabane. Let's try it again. Mbabane. You guys are naturals. And don't get me wrong, the Walshes and the Westmeyers love their dinners. But we sure don't want to become dinners ourselves. So we have to watch for some crocodiles. Again, another piece of trivia, just in case if you were wondering about Eswatini, if you've never heard of it, perhaps you've heard about Swaziland. Eswatini gained its name back in 2018 from Swaziland. The population is 1.2 million. Like I said, it's got 2 capitals. We visited Mbabane. It speaks 2 official languages, and the currency is Swazi-Lilangeni. The major rock is Sabibi, and we will talk to you and show you that rock and monolith. The major river is the Great Usutu. So I'm going to hand this over to Mike for the next leg.
Yeah, hello everybody, my name is Mike. Thank you, Julia, for giving us a little bit of knowledge and facts as we get ready to start our journey, so everybody's at least a little more cultured today. So, as you can see on the right, there's a map there. I just kind of wanted to highlight part 1 of our journey as we left from Johannesburg, going all the way to Eswatini, up to Kruger Park, and then back towards Johannesburg through Pretoria, just to kind of give you an idea on the amount of time and the distance covered on this part 1 of our journey. So, obviously, we had to make a car rental reservation. I tried booking the vehicle on the left, but unfortunately, they said I didn't have the right license to drive that vehicle. So, unfortunately, we got stuck with the 2 on the right. We did have a little bit of a snafu. We were supposed to have a larger van that could fit our whole group. It didn't work out, but I'm not going to get all the details because we had a lot of car issues, which is normal for our family. So we ended up with 2 vehicles, and that's what we got. So on the road, as I mentioned, part 1 was driving east on Johannesburg towards Eswatini, and the landscape just off the bat is a lot different than what I expected. You know, I grew up as a kid, and I always thought of Africa as a little more dry, deserty, and more open safari, but it's very lush and green and a lot of farmland. And I wanted to draw your attention to the power plants, nuclear power plants up here in the corner. We saw like 4 or 5 clusters of this on the entire way between Eswatini and Johannesburg. It was just impressive to see them out there in the wild. And then also, of course, this photo abnormal on the back of their trucks. Just thought that was odd. But while I'm on the topic of power, while we were there, we did run into a few issues that the country's dealing with electricity. I don't know if anybody's heard about that, but it's called load shedding. And here's Samwise Gamgee to talk a little bit about it. But load shedding is a thing that's been going on for South Africa for the last year and a half, where they're having issues getting electricity to their entire country at all times. So they're actually having to black out certain territories in South Africa and remove power for 6 to 12 hours a day to kind of take a little bit of strength off the grid a little bit and let it work properly, because they are having some electrical issues, which I just find shocking when you pass all those power plants. But anyway, it impacts the people that live there a lot more than us. All it did for us was we had to know when we could charge our iPhones. So on the way to Eswatini, it was pretty smooth sailing. I will warn you, a few times you'll get stopped by random checkpoints where they just want to see who's coming through the area. We stood down a little bit, and they usually just let us through. I think they were looking more for locals that were up to trouble. But at the border, we didn't know what to expect. We didn't know how we'd get through. We were worried maybe our vehicle wasn't allowed in Eswatini. We did a lot of research on that. It actually went pretty smooth crossing the border there. You can see the checkpoint sign in the top right. And they did pull over a bunch of trucks right at the border, but we were able to go right through. Only one hiccup, my father may have lost his wallet only to find it in my mom's purse a little later. But the photo on the left's a funny one, and we thought we made it through unscathed, but when we pulled up into Eswatini, we realized that my uncle kind of scratched the car. He may have gotten a little too close to their neighbor. And we were all worried, this could be like thousands of dollars to fix, a huge black stripe down the side of the white car. But here they are. They went out there with 2 toothbrushes, and they were able to get it off. So thank you, Gary, for taking care of that. So Mbabane, as Julia taught everybody to say, is it's a clash of old and new. This was the hotel we stayed at. I just kind of wanted to show that Usually I don't show our hotels, but I just thought it was a unique architectural building and just kind of futuristic, but then you'd see, you know, more traditional style homes there as well. But so it's definitely developing, and even though it's a small country, they're trying to bring more tourism there. So while we were in Eswatini, I'll cover a few of the highlights, which included our safaris. First one, gotta get on a safari when you're there. A few of the mountains, and definitely had to learn a little bit of culture. So our first stop when we got in there was to Sabibi Rock, as Julia had mentioned earlier. It's the largest rock in Eswatini, and actually the unique thing about this, I don't know if you could tell from this, but it's a monolith rock, which means it's one continuous rock. It's not made up of a lot of different rocks, but just one flat rock, stone. And it's actually the second largest in the world, after one in Australia that you might have heard of called Uluru. So we were enjoying this site as we got in there, and again, look at how lush and vegetation is in the picture. But out of nowhere, you can see those clouds coming, and we would have never guessed this would have happened to us in Africa, but we got caught in a hailstorm. Those are golf ball size hail that came pouring down for 5 to 10 minutes straight. Probably did damage to a lot of cars, and we were like, well, I guess we'll have to take a break on the Sabibi Rock and go enjoy a Sabibi beer inside. So they love to drink, they love to eat, they love dancing, they love all that. So we had to partake and try their local beer, which was excellent, by the way. Perfect, refreshing drink. But we have to learn a little bit about culture. We don't like to just go places and not learn about how they used to live. So just outside of the capital there, it's about 30 minutes, is a cultural village called Mentanga. And a big part of it, again, is music, food, beer, and kinship. That's what the people there are all about. And you'll see that through the slides that are coming. There's my wife, Julia, who we've gotten to know a little bit, taking a step into the village. And one of their tribesmen was able to walk us through and teach us a little bit about how they used to live. So, as the tribal leader, he invited us into his hut, and they call it kinship. It's where you're able to share in their life with them. And in Swaziland, and actually most of Northeast South Africa, they used to have more of a polygamy society, so the tribal leader would have multiple wives. And this, he said, would get a little interesting because each wife needed her own hut. They all couldn't just share a hut, so there would be multiple huts in the facility, and so they could all have their own separate space. But then the tribal leader would also have his own hut, and then there would be a hut for food and cooking, and that's where the wives would have to come together sometimes and get over their grudges. And then there was another hut called the beer hut, and that's just for storage of beer. And that's the best hut, actually, because if you're coming to visit, you're allowed to just go and hang out in there. Like if you're from another tribe and you're walking through, you don't ever go in the wives' hut, you don't go in the man's hut. You're allowed to go hang out in the beer hut and have a Sabibi beer. So here's the lovely ladies of our trip, and you can see a few of the huts in the background there. They're made out of the dry grass, by the way, if I didn't cover that. And you can just see the detail and impressiveness of making those. But I want to draw your attention to the rock formation up there. And as you can see by the name there, Execution Rock. Pretty scary term there. And I'll tell you a little bit about the history of that. So this was where they would send foreigners from battle, or what they thought back in the days were witchcraft, or if you had murdered somebody or done any other heinous crimes, they'd send you to the top of there, and they would follow you with spears and walk you off the edge of the cliff. They didn't force you, but there was a spear on the other end. So, as you can tell, they got its name, Execution Rock. Okay, play please. So we had to learn a little bit about dance. Dancing is big in their society, and so here's Julia with them. There's my father holding the flag. So yeah, these are gigantic, and again, they would traditionally make these by hand. can't say if this one was or wasn't, but traditionally, yes. So these would be the center of a community where you come together for ceremonies, events, and tradition, and they had the opportunity to share a little bit of dance with us, and there's Uncle Gary getting down with the guy, but they had a few different names for 3 or 4 traditional dances. I don't want to butcher them, so I'll skip all of them except for one. My favorite, and I think everybody's favorite, is called Sabahaka. And Sabahaka is a move that I'd love to see after this. If anybody thinks they can do it, please come see me after this talk. It's where they kick their legs up in the air 180 degrees where it hits them in the forehead. That is a part of the dance. They don't do it once. They do it over and over and over. Here's an example of that. All of the women can do that. I even saw a few that may have been pregnant also doing this move, and all the men. It's a sign of strength, agility, and just youth within the community. And it was fascinating to see. I mean, we attempted, but I didn't want to pull a hammy. I only made it about halfway. So we knew we wanted to learn a little bit about culture, but we did not realize when we went to the country that they were celebrating Inkwala ceremony, which only happens once a year, and this is a rite of kinship for the whole country, and it takes place on the king's grounds because, as Julie mentioned, it's still a monarchy. So we made our way over to the king's estate where they had these fields of ceremony where this was the day where boys become men. Yes, this was a sign of passing the torch, and it was pretty fascinating that we were able to be there at this time. This was just happenstance, unplanned, and again, just once a year. And you can see the boys, this is them crossing the road, but they're going to the facility to show their agility, their fighting, their dancing, and be accepted in the community as men. And again, that's called Inkwala ceremony, and it was just awesome that we were able to be a part of that. But hey, safari, we gotta talk about animals. That's another reason we're here in Africa. And we say safari number 1 because we do have a larger one coming up later, but we'll call this the teaser safari. If you can see them in the top left, zebras, I mean, they just blend in. They're so easy to miss. And they're like deer, you see them everywhere. And we had a chance to see some anteaters and impala and other types of deer-like creatures there. But this was a nice little safari because it was, again, about 20-30 minutes from the main capital where we were staying, and you kind of go in at your own pace and take your time. You can get out of the car, be careful on certain spots. But yeah, that was Eswatini. It was short and sweet. I will say, I honestly would have spent more time there knowing what it was like, but we didn't know that at the time. So if you do have the opportunity to go, do go a little longer because there's more to see. But we had to leave there, and we were heading up to Kruger Park, which I'll pass that over to Julia. But we did have to do a little car exchange at the airport on the way, and that's the airport entrance, and they just have impalas walking around the airport like you would have a deer in your backyard. That's just the road. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Julia, where she can tell you a little bit about Kruger National Park.
Thank you, Mike. So, like Mike suggested, we do have some rituals when we travel as a group. One of them is, of course, to get ourselves embedded and ingrained in the culture to make sure that we immerse ourselves and learn about it. The other one is to relax and enjoy, because everybody can use an R&R, right? So that's what we did. We did a blend of R&R, but also little safari trips. And when I say little, it really took about 12 hours at a time. But so at the Kruger National Park, we spent 4 nights at this really beautiful golf resort, which has all of the modern day conveniences. But like Mike was suggesting, there is load shedding phenomenon happening in South Africa. So we had to adapt to it, which means when you buy any produce, or if you buy meat, or any, or if you want to charge your cameras, you really have to time yourself to make sure that you are aligned with the schedule for the load shedding. And then Mike will talk to us about the panorama route and the 3 rondavellas, but I will walk us through the safari, which is the fun part. So this is one of the pictures that we did not take, but up to this moment, most of the pictures were taken by us. The picture on the top left was something that we used as a guide on our mission to spy the Africa's Great Five. So remember the question at the beginning, who are the Great Five? Those are the leopard, buffalo, rhino, elephant, and the lion. And I wanted to show you the picture of our attire. So notice that I'm sitting there in that jeepney. It is a vehicle that's converted specifically for safari trips. And it is very safe, but it's also open, but it's constantly moving. And every time that your driver will spy an animal, they will pull over, they will stop for you to take pictures and enjoy the view, and then we'll move on. So we always felt safe, and we always felt like we had plenty of time to take pictures and enjoy. However, the reason why Mike and I elected to wear long sleeves and long pants is because you don't realize, but the sun in South Africa is beating down. And somebody from Ohio, like Mike and myself, we certainly cannot handle our sun really well. So we definitely saved a lot of sun lotion and used it on the trip. We also appreciated our attire. But we've seen people wear anything from shorts to tank tops, very casual, so you can make it as casual or as safari-like, heavy-duty as you like. So let the drama begin. We are on the mission to hunt for the Great Five animals. So early in the morning, 4 o'clock, we get a call at our lobby and at our hotel. We're ready to go. So we settle up and we go out there. Of course, in the early morning hours, which is what I strongly recommend you do when you go to safari, is when animals are most alert and they're most energetic, is in the early hours. And elephants did not disappoint. And that was one of the first giant creatures that we saw, and they're really hard to miss. They're everywhere. They're there to watch us just as we are there to watch them. They're gentle giants. They're amazing. And sometimes we were wondering, whose land is this? Is this ours or theirs? Because they certainly made their own way. So check mark number 1. Let's keep going. The next on the list was buffalo, another giant beast. And buffaloes did not make us wait either. They were all over. They were grazing the field, and they were just having a good time, enjoying the sun. So yeah, they were a lot of buffaloes. We did not get disappointed. So another check mark. Then we keep going, and we've got our eyes set on the prize, and you've got to really look for them. Those felines, aka lions and lionesses and their prides, they sleep 20 hours a day out of 24 hours. They're a tired bunch, and they're not there to watch you as you are there to watch them. And quite frankly, I was happy about that. I was just about as far as I wanted to be from them. So that picture is pixelated. I apologize for the quality, but the reason is because we really had to zoom in to get to see their faces. And they're beautiful animals. Like I said, they sleep a lot, but they sleep with one eye open. So another check mark in our book. Let's keep going. All right, the rhinos. We all know that the rhino population has been declining in recent years, and there's been lots of efforts to help bring their population back up. We did not have a lot of faith or a lot of hope to see them, but we got so lucky. Not only we got lucky to see them, they put on a show. What you see there is in the bottom left picture is an adult male rhino that stopped traffic on both sides of the road in order to protect his family and defend his territory. The two rhinos on the right is his family, And the rhino in the bottom left picture, right across the street, is his enemy. So those are the two young male rhinos that are trying to make their way in life, but they were not welcome there. And boy, did we enjoy just sitting there for about 10 minutes and watch that standoff. Another check mark in our book. And then we kept going and going and going, and like I said, it took us about 12 hours in the park. So we started about 5 o'clock in the morning, and then we didn't finish until about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And we've seen a lot of animals, and giraffes, lots of gazelles, zebras, you name it, kudu. We've seen it all. In fact, it felt like they were out there to see us. It was quite phenomenal because they just roam around, not minding people at all. And of course, the notorious, the monkeys. There are gangs of those monkeys everywhere. They will follow you, they will watch you, and they will try to find a time to sneak that lunch away from you. You better hold on to your hats, your binoculars, you better hold on to all your belongings because they are waiting for you to fall asleep and not pay attention. So monkeys were everywhere in the park, but they were also everywhere at our resort. No matter where we went, they just followed. Also, at our resort, there were hippos. And I'm surprised that hippos are not considered the big five, but they were a delight to watch. They're absolutely phenomenal and fun, giant beasts, really. And you will notice in that picture is our group. We're wearing the same t-shirts as we are now, and this is a huge thanks to Marcia, who went on the trip with us, our cousin Wes Meyer. She handmade these t-shirts to commemorate our Walsh adventures in South Africa. So, the drama. We spied 4 out of 5 animals. And we almost gave up. We thought that there's no way we're going to see the leopard. Let's give up. Let's go home. But my father-in-law is not the kind that easily gives up. He said, no, we're going to go out there again, and I'm going to not stop until I find one. So later that day, we hop in the car, and we drive around safari, which you can do. So for example, earlier for the 12 hours, we hired a jeepney and we hired a driver. But you can also go to the park in your own vehicle. So we did. And lo and behold, look at that majestic feline. They are rare sight, and our driver said that she has not seen them in a long time. In fact, at the park, there are sightings and number of sightings that you can see in the day that people indicate, and leopards are the least frequent sightseeing that people can see. So the fact that we spied one was absolute luck, but we certainly appreciated it. Also, the picture at the bottom right is, I'm pretty sure, and Sheila or Linda, you're holding the picture that you took with your iPhone against the picture that was the front page of the safari booklet. And it looked like that little cat was posing for us. What a little model. So finally, the drama was over. We found our big 5. We were happy. We were lucky. So thanks, Dad. I really appreciate you pushing forward. So with that, we went on to the next adventure.
Yeah, so we're still in the Kruger National Park region, but it also has a lot of other scenery and gorgeous views outside of the park itself. So as you can see, Kruger Park down in the southeast corner. By the way, that's just the town. The park is massive and it spans over 3 countries. It's an international park, by the way, which is really cool that they came together for that. But we decided to do a road trip one day, and it says only 4 hours, but don't be deceived, you can't do that in 4 hours. That's more of an 8-hour drive, not including stops. But we decided to see a few sites you can see on there, and we did it in a circular route called the Panorama Highway. So, as we've alluded to, we like to get off on an early foot, and so you want to get out early, and you want your first stop to get that coffee break at Pilgrim's Rest, where they got a general store, a little coffee shop, and for Julia, a little hopscotch to wake up in the morning. But after that, we went to a place called Echo Caves, which was pretty fascinating. I know we're blessed to have a lot of caves down there, Mammoth Cave in Kentucky and so forth, but this is pretty interesting. Even though they put stairwells in now, there's still a lot of real tight spots, as you can see my aunt going under a small tunnel there, that make it very difficult to get back into some of those caves. And about 2/3 of the way through, even after that, they're like, it's going to get a little more strenuous for this last third. So if you bowed out, but we continued on, and on the far right, they called it Cathedral Cave. And they called it Cathedral Cave because they said back with the early settlers, European settlers that had religion, they would go down to that cave and practice having their religion. And I just thought that was fascinating that they took all that time to crawl down on their hands and knees, go through those little tunnels to have a service underground when you had all that open air. But from there, we went to probably one of the most majestic sites I thought was called the Three Roundabouts. Sorry, the slideshow's getting a little cut on the right there, but that was a fascinating site. And the Three Roundabouts are these three right here, 1, 2, 3, which are also known as the Three Sisters, but they weren't sisters. These were 3 wives of the ex-chief of that area back in the day. And I don't know if he named these after these wives for a blessing, or because, for other reasons, because these were known as his 3 problematic wives. But as Julie mentioned earlier, the Drakensberg Mountain Range, this is a part of the Drakensberg Mountain Range, and this plateau, this one in the background there is actually one of the tallest in the region. And by the way, this is a mirror shot, so you'll see the 3 roundabouts in their proper site, but look at this scenery, this is gorgeous. This is a lush vegetation all over, and this is just looking to the left from the 3 roundabouts, and amazing hiking to do there. You can see they've got a lake down there that trickles off from the river, and we just were taking it all in. It was just fascinating, and again, this is nothing like what I ever expected it to be like in South Africa. So here's a straight-on shot, so those sisters are here, but this is our group again. Just want to show you straight on, not a mirror view of the 3 roundabouts. So after that, it's a lot of hiking. We wanted to go cool our feet off. So we went over to Burke's Lucky Potholes. As you can see, sticking our feet in to cool off. No Crocs here, thankfully, that we saw. But a little bit about Burke's. It's kind of fascinating. Burke's Luck Potholes is named after Thomas Burke, who went out there in 1880 looking for gold. And he started the South Africa gold rush in that region. And they're known for a lot of gold. But I say he found gold because he really didn't. He just spread the word, and everybody else came, and he was siphoning for gold in the wrong valley. Everybody else was south about 10, 20 miles in the right valley getting gold, and this guy never made a dime. But he did get to enjoy putting his feet in these awesome waters, so his name will be remembered for that, even if he didn't get wealth. And again, Berlin Falls, just also on this panoramic route, is just a gorgeous waterfall, and there's Julia in the front view, and this is way different than I thought. And it's kind of hard to see, but over here, those little specks on that rock are baboons, like Rafiki from The Lion King, if you've seen it. And they were just jumping all over the rocks, having a good time. They'll go up to the edge, they'll jump off the edge and grab another rock. They're a lot more athletic than me. So this is God's Window. This was another fascinating site. As you can see, you're kind of on the edge of the plateaus, and you're staring off to a more flat land to the bottom, but it was an amazing view. But what was really interesting was at this spot where you can see the trees, if you just stood there for a little bit, there was an updraft of wind, and it brought a little precipitation. It was pulling off the forest, so you were like getting just hit in the face by this fresh air. It felt like you were right from an air conditioner in the middle of this hot, hot place, and I can see why they call it God's Window there. So that was our loop trip, and we made it back to Kruger Park Lodge, and you could golf there and stuff like that, even though we didn't, but we had fun with the chess game, and there's some fake little baby hippos, but there were real hippos. You just don't want to get close to them because even though they're not the big five, they are the most dangerous animal in Africa. So do not take them lightheartedly. But we had a good time, good food, good company. But that was the end of Kruger Park Lodge, and I'll pass it back to Julian.
Thank you, Mike. So again, the reason why Mike is passing the microphone to me to talk about this is because the next part is shopping. Before we got to South Africa, our family was there just a little bit longer than us, so they got a chance to see Johannesburg, which is one of the bigger cities in South Africa, for a little bit longer. So they've explored a lot of what it has to offer. They went to the zoo, they went to botanical gardens. While we were there with them, we went to Pretoria and Sandton. And Sandton is one of the more upscale neighborhoods in Johannesburg. So we did lots of R&R there. We've seen the statue of Mandela. We've seen lots of hippos, like Mike said, they're in the mud. And then, of course, like I said, shopping and trying some meals, trying different things just to get a little bit of an urban experience. So Pretoria, one of the capital cities, like I mentioned before, and of course it has the house that houses all of the embassies from foreign countries in it. So the U.S. Embassy is in that government house as well. So there's lots to see and only so much time for us, so unfortunately we have to keep going. And then, like we said, there's some rituals on our trips, and one of them is botanical gardens. So we try to always make it a point to go to one just because of the flora and fauna, and we just like different species of plants and animals. So Pretoria's Botanical Garden did not disappoint, let me tell you that. So yes, there's lots of species of cacti, there's lots of very exotic geese and ducks and rodents. So you will not be disappointed if you go. You can spend a day there easy. So like I said, Sandton was a place for us to just kind of relax before the next leg of our trip. So we've just spent some time playing cards and enjoying each other. Some of us enjoyed the pool a little bit too much, but hey, no judgment here. And then with that, we went on to the Cape Town, which is another capital of South Africa.
Yeah, so Cape Town, if you remember on the map, is on the complete opposite side of South Africa from where we started, and we were trying to determine how to get there, and we originally wanted to take the Cross-South African train. We did a lot of research on that, but their schedule was kind of iffy. It was a long duration for the train and quite expensive for the ones. And I would have loved to have done that, but unfortunately that wasn't going to be in the cards, so we ended up flying from Johannesburg to Cape Town, but just letting you know there is a train option as well. We spent 5 nights in Cape Town, obviously explored Cape Town, got to see some penguins, Cape of Good Hope, and Table Mountain, which I'll cover, but there's just a gorgeous shot showing you the view down on Cape Town from what I'll explain a little later. So we've done a lot of driving ourselves, as you've seen on the part 1 of this trip, so we thought we would sit back and ride a hop-on, hop-off bus and just take in the city that way. It's very touristy, but sometimes it's kind of nice in a bigger city to get a feel for the place. So as you can see, we sat on an open top, gorgeous weather, and on the right there, I just wanted to point out that's my father, Joe, and that was our driver, whose name was also Joe, so small world. But while I'm on this slide, you can just see the city's peppered on these valleys and cliffs along the water there and these gorgeous beaches. I don't have a real good shot of the beaches, but right in here, there are 4 separate beaches called the Clifton Beaches. And there's 4 of them, and one of them they say is for the locals, one is for tourists, one is for the penguins, and one's for celebrities. So you can see Leonardo DiCaprio or Charlize Theron hanging out there, but we'd probably be on the touristy ones. So as Julia mentioned, we love botanical gardens, and this may be, we've been to a lot all over in the U.S., and this might be one of my favorite ones. This is gorgeous. This is the Cape Town Botanical Gardens right on the side of Table Mountain, and it's just so lush and gorgeous, but the unique feature about these botanical gardens, they're called the Curtition, I might be butchering that name, it's the, I want to get it right, the Bosch National Botanical Gardens. They were created in 1913, and it was actually to preserve the native indigenous plant life of South Africa because they saw a lot of destruction for farmland and just ripping off old crops, and a lot of crops from all over the world coming to South Africa, and they wanted to protect their own. So they built this botanical garden of all South African natural plant life, and it was gorgeous, and we had the time to just explore there and wander around. It's beautiful. But we also had some fun times, so we explored the harbor of Cape Town, and I like these shots for a couple of reasons, because now you can finally see it. That is Table Mountain in the background. This flat peak up there, and if the clouds hit it right, it'll just coast over this white clouds, and that's where it's called Table Mountain. So it looks like a tablecloth over the flat Table Mountain. And that's a backdrop, and you can see it from any point in Cape Town, so it's a nice reference point for where you're at. But the harbor was also awesome. You can see they've redeveloped these wharves, and they've got a lot of shopping, restaurants, eateries, social life, which what used to just be a worn-down wharf district. And they revitalized this when they had the 2010 World Cup. While we were there, we had the chance to try some Mozambique food, which was a highlight for me and Julia because we had jackfruit skewers. I don't know if anybody's ever had jackfruit, but we decided to try it, and it was phenomenal, and I would highly recommend. And we loved it so much, we came home and wanted to try it ourselves. That is a jackfruit right there. And you can actually find it at Kroger. So I bought a whole jackfruit. Actually, I think I bought it at Monette's, but I bought a whole jackfruit, which was a little bit overkill. We had a lot of it. But you can see it kind of looks like a pineapple, but it's very sweet. And we did jackfruit pulled pork for my birthday because I love it so much. Unfortunately, maybe not as good as the one at the Mozambique restaurant, but just wanted to point out you can try it here locally. So, back in Cape Town, again, you can just see how developed the city is, but Table Mountain always in the background. And I'll talk a little bit more about Table Mountain because I decided I'm there, I'm going to hike it. But in this photo, I just want to point to this cloud formation over here. Julia will cover a little later. So Table Mountain, I decided to get up early. Again, this was like a 4 or 5 a.m. one because you don't want to hike in the sunlight. So anyway, keep it going around that. I did the Platycliffe Gorge hike, which was 1.8 miles and 2,400 feet of elevation change. And you can see, so this is a lot drier on this side than the Botanical Garden, which was much more lush and green. So that's on the ocean side, and that's getting all that fresh rain and cloud. This was the dry side. I wanted to actually climb the Botanical Garden side, but you enter from the park, and they don't open till like 8 or 9, so you'd be right in the sunlight. So I chose the more cool, shady side. And the hike's supposed to take 2 or 3 hours. I did it in an hour. I was pretty happy with myself, but it was steep. It was an uphill battle. And when I got to the top, I realized I didn't want to climb down because that was intense. My legs were shot, but awesome hike, awesome hike. And you get to the top, and these are the views you get to see. So the top view is looking north back at Cape Town, and the bottom view is looking south off at the ocean. Real quick in this corner, that's the cable car, so if you don't want to do the hike, you can cable car up. And that's what my family ended up doing. The rest of them met me at the top and got up on the cable car, and there we are looking at that. I just want to point out that little donut right there. That's the World Cup site from 2010 where they played the World Cup soccer. Well, I got to keep moving. I was pulling the timer, so I decided to cable car back down with them, and this is where I will pass to Julia for a little more exploring.
All right, I've got about 30 seconds here. Thank you. So the Cape of Good Hope is definitely something that we wanted to visit, and there is lots of places to stop and beaches and penguins to see along the way. But the very important part about the Cape of Good Hope is that you can just go up there. It's accessible to everybody. I'm not a big hiker like Mike, but I managed to get up there. And if you're wondering where I'm looking at, I'm actually staring directly across the ocean into Antarctica. No, I could not see it, but that was the direction I was trying to see it. And this is actually the best place in the world to dive with the great white sharks. This is one of the very interesting cloud formations that Mike was telling you about. If you'll notice there, it's hugging all around that peak of the mountain, and it's a special kind of a cloud. It forms and stays there, and it doesn't move. And then of course we've got our dancing shoes on, and we wanted to show the locals what we're made of. So we headed for a really nice dinner at this local restaurant where we heard some local singing, dancing, some local instruments, and of course a wonderful food. We've tried different meats such as kudu, ostrich, and crocodile. And just to place my in-laws in the spotlight, they've got a move or two up their sleeves, so if we could play that. They've got that twist, they've got that energy, that shoes on, and just having a great time. There we go. So after dancing, every girl's dream is to sail into the sunset. I did not get to sail into the sunset, but I got to stare at it, and that was good enough for me. So we met the sunset in the Cape Town, and that was the conclusion of our stay in South Africa. It was short, but it was packed and eventful, and that is the Walsh way to do this. So with that, we bid South Africa goodbye and headed back to reality. And so I think this concludes our presentation today. Thank you all so much for choosing to spend this afternoon with us. We will now open up the floor to any questions. And yeah, we'll just take questions now. See you
The one thing that has always stopped me from doing a safari, and this is a sensitive question. You said you were gone for 12 hours. There's all these beasts out there. What do you do for toilets? Really? What do you do? 12 hours out there, you have lions and tigers and, you know.
Beers.
What do you do for a toilet, Scott?
Yes, I'm assuming you're asking about what humans do for toilets. Just clarify. So, out of those 12 hours, you have about stretches of 3 hours where you sit in the car, and you have to pretty much stay there until your stops. So they kind of plan strategic stops along the way for you to not only use the facilities, but also to grab a bite or just to take some break. So I've got probably the smallest bladder in our group, and I was really concerned about that, but I managed. I stopped drinking water the night before. That helped. I wouldn't recommend it, but yeah, it's doable. But yes, the facilities is great question though.
There's actually a place. You don't just go out and go behind the tree.
Yes, I would never want to squat next to one of them, rhinos. Actually the park is very well developed. It's got nice facilities, lodges just like this, where there's air conditioning, lights, they cook food for you. There's very common modern facilities available for everybody, so it's not as wild as I thought it was going to be. So it's very tame. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Just want to make sure.
Yeah, thank you.
To alleviate any concerns. Yes, sorry, go ahead.
What airline did you use to fly to South Africa? And so, like what layover? And did you fly to South Africa from Detroit?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. We flew Delta. We actually got a really good flight price going over there, but we flew outgoing Delta DTW to Atlanta to Cape Town.
Oh, so it's a direct
Atlanta to Cape Town is
from
one of those.
Georgia to Cape Town. Direct.
Yes.
How long was the Atlanta to Cape Town?
Do you remember 14?
It's close to 14 hours.
14 hours, yeah.
It was the longest flight.
You mean both
Second.
Delta, to Detroit to Atlanta, Atlanta to
Yeah, it
Cape
was-
Town? And on the way back was also Atlanta.
My family went through Atlanta on the way back. We went Cape Town Amsterdam, Detroit on the way back.
Oh,
So there's 2 routes. You can go through.
Also, to,
Yes. Okay. Yeah, if you got more questions about that after, I can
does
answer
South
that.
Africa have any fame for theater performances?
They might have, but I didn't
I'm-
delve into
No,
that.
I shouldn't ask that.
No, that's a good question. I didn't dive into that though. But I'd be glad to talk more after. Did anybody else have questions?
The smooth rocks that you
the BB.
showed at the beginning,
Yes.
are they, what kind of minerals are they? Are they, there's no
Uncle Ben?
mining there?
My uncle's a geologist. I'll put him on the spot. No, I don't know offhand. I'm sorry.
But they were not mining any materials.
There is mining going on there, but I don't think they've touched that rock. It actually, I didn't talk about, but it had a lot of ceremonial value to the tribes at the time. It's iconic, like the Uluru, so nobody's touching that rock. I'm not sure on the minerals. Uncle Vince could talk to him after.
All power plants you went by, were they nuclear, coal, gas?
Oh, variety.
Why did they have a shortage out there?
They had nuclear. Those were nuclear.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. But they had shortage. I think they were shutting some. I mean, Germany's been shutting a lot down. I don't know if that's the same thing there, but they've had the electricity issues. So.
Okay, but they must ship it out someplace else and put it on the grid because there's only 1.2 million people with that many power plants.
Well, 1.2 in Eswatini. Those power plants were in South Africa. That was for the South African 60 million. That's not a question.
Was language an issue? The difference?
That's a great question. So South Africa is English-speaking country. They do have 11 languages because there's so many ethnicities and tribes. So, but English is one of their primary languages. They do have an accent, but then who doesn't? I do. So I felt myself very at home. We had no issues communicating, and what's interesting, we went to some pretty remote places in Eswatini, and we had no issues interacting with the locals. So they really made sure to put an extra effort to learn English to interact with the foreign visitors. But that's a really good question.
What happened to the rhino's horns?
I mean, poachers. I mean, you know, over time, they're dealing with it as best they can. There are local rangers, and they're trying to get better at stopping the poaching. But poaching is a huge problem for those rhinos still, all over.
How did they cut the horn off a rhino when the rhino?
Yeah, I've never considered that. I wasn't really thinking of doing that, but that's.
Right, that's that question.
No, it is. I don't know. They're using some sort of tools. I think they tranquilize the rhino and then I cut it off. I mean, yeah, it's sad, but they're doing that. Yes. Yeah.
What kind of temperatures did you have, and what time of the year were you there? And did you see any of the British influence from the apartheid days and Nelson Mandela, etc.?
Yes. No, we were there in January, which is their summer, because they're on the summer, but it was hot. I mean, that's all I can say. It was hot, but it was more refreshing hot than you think. Like, you saw that lush vegetation. You get a lot of wind movement. You saw we had hail on the one day, so a lot of variety. Hotter than here, I'll tell you that. But you just prepare. Wear sunscreen. I wear sunscreen. Regarding the apartheid, yeah, it's definitely part of the culture there, and they're still dealing with that today. And regarding what you said about British influence, British and Dutch, you see a lot of that in Cape Town. And I didn't do Johannesburg as much. My family can talk about Johannesburg a little more, but you definitely see that influence still there. There's a question in the back, I believe.
I was just going to expand on that, the rhino ones.
Yes.
If you don't mind. So actually, the environmentalists and rangers will tranquilize the rhinos and take off the horns themselves. So they do it totally humanely, and they do that to prevent poachers from coming in. So you'll actually see signs up on fences out there at the parks, and it'll say all of our rhinos do not have horns.
Thank you, stranger. Appreciate that info.
No problem, Mr. Walsh.
Go ahead up front. Yes. We went on that trip for a little over 2 weeks, I think 15, 16 days. But I mean, you're losing a whole day of travel on the way there, so it was probably 14 on ground. I would recommend longer if I had time.
How were the, as far as the cost?
Cheap, very cheap. Once you get there, I mean, once you get that flight, lodging, you're staying at nice 3, 4, 5-star places, $100 or less, you know, I mean, it's really good pricing, food was reasonable. I mean, when you're in Cape Town or at the Kruger National Park Lodge, it's obviously a little more tourist price, but you can find hole in the walls. And even at the tourist price, it's very, very affordable, cheaper than here, so.
Mike, couple things. You asked about the weather. It's very warm there because it's summer when you go, but a very odd phenomenon. There's beautiful, spectacular beaches, but nobody swims in the water because their summer, the ice melt is melting in Antarctica, and they have very strong winds, and it blows this very cold water current up. So it's incredible. There's thousands of people at the beach, and there's 3 little kids in the water. It's just, you don't swim in the water. The second thing you asked about the cost, it's very reasonable. There was a couple photos of us having dinner at Kruger National Park. We go down to the lodge and eat. It was incredibly reasonable. It was a half or a third of what you pay here. And we were drinking literally alcoholic cocktails. You would pay $15 here for like $2 or $3 a pop.
Yeah, it's really affordable.
And also, there was one photo where we were in a swimming pool, and there were 2 pools. That was just our house. That was just our house.
Yeah, that was our personal pool at the lodge.
You can rent a whole home there, 5-bedroom, 5-bath. It's incredibly cheap. On the golf course with monkeys out in the yard, gazelles walking by, 2 swimming pools, and it's just our house.
And if you want to know how to sweet talk the guards I told you those stops, that gentleman is going to tell you a little bit about that later. Any other questions?
What about the genocide and the wars going on in Africa? Did you have any idea that this was going on, or did anyone talk to you about it?
Yeah, I mean, there's problems in every society. I don't think we felt unsafe at all on the entire trip. It's there, but I mean, we live 50 miles from Detroit. I feel okay here in Toledo. I felt okay there.
Said somebody made your shirts, which was very clever to put the
Marshall.
sleeve and all that. So the lovely lady or whatever, tell us a little about that.
Well, I think it would be fitting to have
the artist is here.
I just have a machine, a silhouette cutting machine. So basically, you pick out things and you cut them in vinyl and iron them on. And I found that Africa on there was made up of the animals from Africa.
There was actually a picture of it at the very end.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think Marsha's being very modest here. This is really a work
she did a
of
great
art.
job.
This is a shape of South Africa made out of the silhouettes of animals. And then there is 3 major points and landmarks that we actually visited. Let me look at yours. So it's Kruger National Park, Johannesburg, and Cape Town, written on it. And then this is the Walsh Adventures in South Africa. So it really helped us to keep each other, you know, in check and see each other because we wear the same kind of t-shirt. So it was a phenomenal thing that Marsha came up with. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Any other questions? Thank you.